Welcome to the Engaging Classroom.
Making it work.
We're going to talk about clubs.
We're going to talk about clubs. So do you remember over the pandemic, our principal sent out an email that every teacher in the school had to have some club to engage students outside of the class.
I do remember this.
Because we were all on Zoom. It was miserable for both us and the students. Admin, I think at the school, I think this was also kind of a district initiative, was basically saying we need a way for students to socialize. Every teacher is going to do a club, and then students can pick from the clubs what they want to do so that they can socialize with other students.
This isn't how I thought you were going to start this, but yeah, I remember all of those things. Absolutely.
It was a miserable experience. I remember sitting.
The pandemic in general was a miserable experience. Yeah.
We had a cybersecurity club that became TSA.
Okay.
And it was.
What does TSA stand for?
Oh, it is Technology Students Association.
Yeah. Technology Student Association. Yeah.
And it was me sitting on Zoom with a bunch of kids while they did some project. But that was the pandemic. And I think that there's something to be said for the rationale behind why we should have had the clubs.
Okay.
Which was we need for students to socialize. We need to see students outside of the class.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us to what makes a good club.
And why.
And why to do
them.
it. Right.
Yeah, I had clubs ever since, or been involved in some sort of extracurricular, which, as I was saying back when we were talking about this whole episode, how I find that very weird that it's called extracurricular. As in you're doing extra things in addition to your curriculum, but it really means that it's outside of curriculum for a lot of clubs, or in addition to your
for
curriculum.
a teacher. Sure. It can feel extra.
It really can. But I've done a lot of things in my career that are clubs. I'm still involved in a club here at Duke.
Nice.
And am an advisor for them. And they're very student-run type of clubs.
Sure.
And we can talk about that one later. But when I started, I was at a magnet arts middle school. And as a first 3-year teacher, they really got me like super involved. Probably not the most advisable thing for a beginning teacher to do is take on a club. Yeah.
In fact,
you shouldn't.
I don't think in North Carolina you're not supposed to be able to for your first 3 years of teaching.
Somebody should have told my school that.
Oh, well, they probably when they brought down those papers for you to sign, there was one that said, no, I accept the extra duty that I'm not supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I was a football, or not a football coach. I was a wrestling coach, and I promptly hired somebody who knew what they were doing to help me out.
Cool.
He was fantastic. He did a really great job working with the students and so forth. And I was able to just run things kind of in the background.
Yeah.
Manage the team. But I also was part of, I guess we would have called it in our day, the AV club.
Yeah.
Right. So the audiovisual club, like I filmed every sporting event. I filmed every theater, production, dance. I mean, it was a magnet art school.
Sure.
Right. And then I also ran the yearbook club.
Oh, okay.
It was the only time we were in the black for the yearbook. Otherwise, it ran in the red for as long as I had.
Oh,
record
you mean
going
financially?
Back.
You mean financially?
Yes. I mean financially.
I was like in the dark. I like did you?
No, I mean financially. We actually turned a profit on the yearbook that year.
Dang, that's
the
awesome.
1 year that I did it. I know, and nobody liked it. But my goal was to turn a profit on it and teach students how to do that. So, I mean, it was all in black and white. It was very thin. It had the most important things in it, but yeah. And then we ran a lot of ads in it. You and I ran some clubs.
Yeah, we did.
TSA being one of them.
TSA being one of them. TSA is a very formal club. It is I don't know if they still do this, but students actually had to like dress up.
Yeah.
When they went to competition, they were supposed to have these very formal meetings. There was a leadership group for TSA that the students would join for both the school and the state. There was a lot of planning involved on the teacher's part that I was not aware that I was supposed to be doing. You have to plan field trips for the competitions. You have to sign up for the competitions. You need to do judging. You need to buy all the equipment, fundraising. It is a formal club that your school joins. When students go to competition, they were at one point supposed to dress up. You had to buy like the outfits from TSA.
Blazers,
the
white
blazers.
shirt. Yeah.
I did not realize the amount of work that I was creating for myself in starting this club. And I started it over the pandemic because the students wanted it. The students really wanted TSA. And I said, sure, why not? I have to have this club anyway.
So you did it out of a necessity.
I did it out of necessity. I had no idea what TSA was before I started this club. TSA is an awesome club for a lot of kids, a lot of schools. In fact, the students that we had went on to competition, competed.
They went on to win.
And went on to win.
I mean, I think they've gone on to, after you and I left, they went on to states and nationals.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And I remember I still have photos of the team that won the video game competition and how proud they were of it. But these types of clubs, these formal clubs, they're a ton of work on the teacher's part. And yeah, it's fun, but there is a lot of added weight on the teacher's shoulders to get this off the ground and to maintain it year after year.
Right.
I remember there was somebody at our school did the Chick-fil-A leadership. And it was very successful. This had tons and tons of students, and she did it for the students. She was phenomenal for doing it for the students, but it's a lot of work to do kind of these formalized clubs. And so we had some clubs that were not so formal.
We did. We had clubs that weren't very formal. You and I were both, I think technically we co-advised the D&D club.
You know, you say technically. I don't think we signed any paperwork that said we were advisors.
I think that how that worked was the students had to get it approved, and they had to have a teacher that they said was their advisor.
Right.
And there was probably an email or piece of paper, and I probably just put your name on it.
Probably.
And I was like, it's me and Russell. I fought that for a long time. I fought being the D&D advisor. Oh, yeah. They wanted me to advise for a couple of years, and I kept turning it down because we had other clubs that we were doing that were also fun type clubs. We probably did that in like 2018 or 2019 was the first year that we did the D&D club.
Yeah, I think so. It was right before the pandemic.
It was just before pandemic.
But
it's totally different though.
It is. And you mentioned like you were hesitant because of the added work, because you had so many clubs already.
Well, right. And I knew they'd want to meet on Fridays.
Yep.
So I'm not going home, which, let's be honest, I wasn't going home anyway.
But still, a Friday club, like you just don't want to see kids after 4 o'clock rolls around on a Friday. You want the option to be able to go home.
And by 2018, I was already 10 plus years into being at Riverside.
Yeah.
So things were fairly smooth by that point. And I think we'd hired enough people. You were on board by then. We'd hired some other people. Things were settling down some. And I just went, you know what? I want to play D&D.
By the way, D&D is Dungeons and Dragons for all the people who are not as nerdy as we are.
It's a tabletop role-playing game.
Yeah.
It's like the thing that they do in Stranger Things.
But right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think what made this club work for us is we essentially told the students, hey, we're not gonna run any games. We're like, you need to manage yourself. we just want to play D&D.
Yeah.
And so we actually had a student run our campaign for us.
We did. And so there were 4 students that were responsible for the club. They were all seniors.
Yep.
And the first year that we did it, it was before the pandemic, and we said, you're gonna manage this whole thing, and we're gonna sit back, and we'll sign the papers, and you can have that room right there. And we pointed, next to mine. And in fact, my former student teacher, then new hire, I was like, we're using your room Friday. But I think we put his name on it as well. And then we were like, you can just go back in the office and do some work if that's what you want to do, if you don't want to participate. And then you don't have to worry about a club. And we told these 4 students who were running it that they had to teach the students how to play. They had to organize them into the campaigns being the thing that you're in when you're playing, right? So we had to figure out, how do we make it so that we do as little as possible,
right? Because
we wanted it to be fun for us and for them.
We basically told the students that they were running everything, and we would only step in when we needed to,
right.
And they did not want it to get to the point where we needed to step in.
Right. And there were a couple of times where it would get really loud in the room next door.
And we'd have to just walk over and be like,
bring it down.
Bring it down.
Just bring it. You're up here. You need to be down here.
Every now and then there would be some conflict on a campaign. But those moments were kind of teachable moments of,
correct.
Well, how should we deal with this?
Yeah. And it was good for the students because they had a chance to work that out with the people that they were responsible with or for before they involved us.
Right.
But then, we got to then play a lot of D&D run by students who knew what they were doing. Sometimes my student teacher would play with us.
We'd have 2 or 3 other students.
Yeah, and they would be seniors. And we always insisted that it was these other students that we knew that were going to graduate soon, and maybe they'd played a lot in the past. But we didn't want to be bogged down with having to teach a bunch of students how to play. We wanted something fun for everybody. And that was our trade-off. That was how they sold it to me, was that that's what they wanted to do. And would I please pick up another club to do that? Because you and I were also doing one that was a mix of those two things.
We were. So I really liked D&D because this was kind of a casual sort of, there wasn't competitions involved. There weren't field trips involved.
No.
We didn't even really have to buy anything. I think we bought dice. And we 3D printed figurines.
We did 3D print a lot of figurines, which we just worked into. You've got to figure out how to make them, basically.
Yeah. But it was fun, and it was a way for us to build relationships with students.
Yeah.
It was a way for us to build relationships, allow them a little ownership, a little leadership. Like we said, we didn't run the campaign. We had a student run it.
Correct.
And it was a privilege to sit at the table with the teachers.
Yeah. Yeah. And they loved it.
We enjoyed it.
I don't think you played with us when we did virtual, because you decided that you wanted to do your own club.
Yeah.
And that's when you took on TSA during the pandemic. And my wife joined us.
Oh, okay.
And that we did. We had our parent organization pay for some books, and they paid for whatever online system we were using at the time. And that was great. The students loved that. They ran with that. But we did the same thing. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm right now in a campaign with a former student. With 3 former students and my wife, who we've all played D&D with through the D&D club from years ago, that they're all like full-grown adults now. And he still reminisces about when I left and buying special dice to give to me upon leaving and so forth, because he played with us during that online semester or online year. And then when we came back in person and we started D&D back up, he was our DM. He was our dungeon master.
Nice. Yeah.
And it was great. It was a good full circle kind of thing.
It was.
Yeah.
And so we had kind of like, we talked about those formalized clubs.
Yeah.
There's a national organization,
Yeah.
there's competitions, there's field trips, there's all this kind of extra work that the teacher takes on.
Right.
We talked about the kind of fun clubs.
The fun
where
ones, right.
it's extra work, like it's extra time, but it's fun. You
let the students manage it.
Right. It is a chance to build relationships with students. It's low pressure. If something really drastically goes wrong, you can just say, okay, we're not having this club anymore.
Right.
It's not, you haven't paid anything.
Right.
And then we had a club that was kind of in the middle, that kind of meshed that more formalized and the fun, which was our Maker Club.
Right. We did. I would say that it would border more with being a fun club.
I think so.
Than a formal club. We definitely, we had more to say with how it was run and what was happening in it. We made the decisions about that.
And I think when I say formal, maybe formal's the wrong word. Maybe academic is.
Sure.
Because we were engineering.
Right.
And so a lot of the stuff in Maker Club was doing something extra with the tools and the skills that you've learned in our classes.
Right. Right.
So there was 3D printing, there was laser cutting. I actually remember when I first came onto the Maker Club, what you had done was set up a Google form for teachers to fill out for, hey, this thing broke in my class, or hey, I want this thing. Could you make it for me?
So the Maker Club came from the original Maker Club. Came from the fact that we used to do this club called the Red Club.
Okay.
And it was Riverside Engineering and Design Club.
Sure.
And that was years and years and years prior. And we always tried to come back to it and build something there. We had the Green Club at one point, which I know that sounds funny that it went from red to green, but it was more about like, how do we do things that are environmentally friendly and do things that are helpful around the school to, we tried to get recycling programs going and helped with that. We tried to work with the greenhouses and do things there. And some of that, to my knowledge, still happened after we left. They were still doing things like that.
I think so.
But I had 3 students that came to me that were, I don't know, probably sophomores or juniors. They weren't seniors yet. They were very big into doing some 3D printing. And they were starting to help me train other people on how to use the 3D printers.
Right.
It was around the same time that we started to, we brought on some CNC routers and we brought on some laser cutters. And we were starting to build out our, what we called the fab lab, right? The fabrication space that we had, which is just a glorified wood shop.
And kind of going towards that, you mentioned having CNC machines and laser cutters and 3D printers. You also had like just wood shop, like saws and drills and like planks of spare wood in the back.
Right. And none of that was super organized.
Right.
Right. So I think I had just moved into that space as my classroom. And these students came to me and they said, we want to learn how to use some of this new equipment and we want to teach people how to use it as well. And we want to help around the school. We want to find projects to do. And so I sat down with them. And again, I'm sure there was paperwork that we filled out. But they decided that the 3 of them would have this form that goes out to these teachers and it would ask them, do you have an issue that you think we can solve by building something, creating something?
Sure.
It could be something that's broken in your room. It could be something that you need that the school can't afford. It could be something that, isn't a necessity, but it would just be this fun thing that you want, like a manipulative or something that we could 3D print for you to show to your students. And then that turned into very quickly within a semester of us being way overwhelmed with so many projects.
See, I remember when I came on that there were teachers who were asking for things that there was no way we could possibly
They should have been reaching out to maintenance.
They should have been reaching out to maintenance. I remember we had that for a few months and then we basically called it and said, this isn't working. Let's pick some projects that we want to help our classrooms down here, which is selfish, but...
Well, it allowed us to be able to offload a lot of those to maintenance that we finally were like, okay, this is not, I can't fix the ramp out in front of your mobile classroom.
I can't fix your door. That's that's just not something I can do.
We did replace, there was a water fountain on our hallway, and for almost an entire year, it did not have a handle.
Oh.
It had just a little knurled knob that the handle would have fit on. And our students hated that. And people would come from the other end of the school to that particular water fountain and use it because it was the best water. It tasted the best. It was the coldest or whatever. So it got a lot of use and that handle broke off.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that the teachers came to us. In fact, I think an admin came to us and said, can you replace this?
Sure.
You know, and it saves them from having to go buy it or find it or something like that. And so we did. I went out there and I showed them, how do you measure this? How do you make some iterations of it to get it to work? And we got it to the point where it worked. And when I left, that was still the handle that was on there. And that would have been 4 or 5 years later, 5 or 6 years later. But yeah, we had things like that. We made giant bathroom passes.
I remember these. Yep. This was a big thing.
This was a huge thing. And this was when it was early. This was an admin request. This was our principal requested it. They paid for the materials. They wanted us to make over 100 of them. It was one for every classroom. And there's a lot of classrooms in a high school the size that we had.
Yep.
And it took us a year and a half, I think, to get them all made. And we cut them out on the CNC router. They were, I'm not kidding, this big, handles and everything.
To give an idea on why this request existed, it's because students kept stealing the bathroom passes.
And nobody had a consistent one.
And there was no consistent one. So an admin could stop the students in the hall and be like, hey, where's your pass? And they could literally have anything. It could be like
a piece of paper.
Stuffed animal.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, no, this is the bathroom pass from the teacher. This was this giant thing that no student would ever want to steal. And that was instantly recognizable.
One of the parameters was we need to be able to stand at one end of the school, and it was a long spine of a school.
Yeah.
And be able to see the bathroom pass. I said, do you have to read it? And they said, we need to know what hall they're supposed to be on.
Yep.
And the halls were labeled by letter. We did iterations with the students using mock-up materials, and I had them hold the doors open, and one student would stand at one end, and I would go to the other end, and I have bad eyesight.
Yeah.
And I kept making them make it bigger and bigger until finally it was within the parameters of what they wanted for size. And the letter was big enough on it that I could see it from the other end of the school and clearly make out that it was an R or an A or a T.
And, you know, kind of like with TSA, I was talking about the competition and the pride that students would take in winning. And I still have the pictures, the joy that students had from that competition. You know, what this did was it allowed students, like the bathroom passes, as they were walking through the schools, they could say, like, I made that. I made that thing, and it is being used today. And that's real. They could take pride in that. I mean, I know it's a bathroom pass, but still, like, they contributed to the longevity of the school. Those things are still there.
Yeah.
We actually did a huge project where you needed a table that it needed to be rugged. It needed to be something that, like, if the students broke it, you could, like, easily pull
replace it.
Just replace it. Just, like, pull the top of the table off, put a new top on. And so you found these plans online. It was a YouTuber.
It is a YouTuber. Her name's April Wilkerson. Not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored, but I encourage you to go check out her YouTube channel. It's really cool stuff that she makes. And she sells her designs. Some of them she'll sell. Some of them she gives away.
But you bought this one. You bought the plans.
Yeah, well, our parent organization did. It was like, it was $10. It was $10 to buy the plan, and it was like $100 in plywood.
Yep. And it was all plywood.
And it was all plywood. It was thick. Her plans called for 3 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood. One sheet was the top, one sheet was the frame, and one sheet was
like drawers,
and then the tops of the base, I think, as well, or something to that effect. And then there was scrap.
Sure.
There was a little bit of scrapbook.
And over the course of the semester, we built this table.
Yeah.
And I think what I loved about it was there's no real obligation besides the fact that it was going to be used.
Yeah.
Like if it went poorly, okay, we wasted time. But at the end of the day, we built a table.
Yep.
You brought in, I think you had to bring in like a nail gun at one point.
So I probably would have, I think at that same point, we also had a grant with DeWalt go through. And it wasn't a grant for money. It was a grant for equipment.
Right.
And so we got a bunch of equipment from them. And so we had drivers and drills and so forth. And so the whole idea was that this thing would get screwed together, because then you could unscrew it to take it apart if you needed to replace pieces. There was something that I think I was showing them how to use a palm nailer and a nail gun and all these other things, all these other tools. But the tool that I brought in that we use that we didn't have there, it was a jigsaw.
Yeah.
And very specifically, I remember, and it comes up when I play D&D with this guy, there is a drawer that he cut the handle for it. It was the first time he had ever used a jigsaw. And I said, you're going to drill a hole here, and you're going to drill a hole here, and then you're just going to follow this path around. And that handle is not clean at all. But it was the first time he got to use it.
Right.
And he wasn't upset or sad about it. You know, he even now reflects on it as that was the first time I ever used a tool like that. For him, every time he saw that drawer, it was a badge of honor and pride for him. And for me, I loved it. I thought it was great that, you know, who cares? We built this table together. And it was there for the whole rest of the time that we were there. And kids, we used it for everything. It was great storage, held a lot of stuff. It was a good work table.
When I came over and visited your class, I'd sit on it.
It was a very sturdy table.
It was a very sturdy table. But yeah, so we had like three different styles of clubs. We had like the very formal club, which requires a lot of work on the teacher's end. Its students take a lot of pride in the work that they do and the competitions that they compete in. But there's fundraising, there's field trips involved. Then we had the super fun clubs where we just basically mess around and build relationships with kids. They're not academic at all. And then we kind of took those ideas and sort of merged them together with our Maker Club. Yeah. Where students still use their academic skills to build something that they took pride in, that they enjoyed. But it was less formalized. There wasn't any necessity. There wasn't an end goal except for what we told them to do. And it allowed us to relax a bit more, to have fun with the students as well. What are your kind of takeaways on this?
My takeaways would be, one, don't feel like you have to participate in a club if you don't have the time. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. No matter if you're doing something like what we're describing as a fun club or that we're describing as something that is, a mix of the fun and formal. The formal is definitely going to take your time and effort. So if you don't have that, don't do it. You don't have to, unless, of course, your administration is telling you that you have to. In which case, go with a fun club.
Yeah. Go with the fun club.
Let the students manage it. Let the students run as much of it as possible. Teach them the leadership that they need to be able to manage it. And then take those students, and instead of having to teach them that management as part of the club itself, meet with them on the side and train them a little bit on the side of what they need to do. Have kind of a side meeting with them. Whether it is a quote-unquote fun club or something that's more formal, it needs to be something that you're interested in. I did, and now I like anime, but I did the anime club as well, and it's cool. I like animation, and there would be times where I would watch it, but with that one, I felt like I was doing that because I really liked the students that were running it, and I appreciated what they were trying to do for other students, and so I was giving them the space to do it. So just make sure that you're doing it because you want to do it, not because somebody else wants you to do it. And don't do it in your first 3 years.
Don't do it in your first 3 years.
Don't do it in your first 4 years if you can.
Yeah, and that's what I was basically going to say is think about it should be a mutually beneficial experience. Yeah. What, as a teacher, are you going to take from it? What benefits are going to encourage you to continue doing it week after week? And how are your students going to benefit from it as well?
Yeah.
What kind of pride are your students going to take in it? For me, I know it's not a club. I would never coach a team. I would never in a million years coach a team. But we had coworkers who it was pretty much their entire identity was they were coached.
It was how they connected with the students.
It was how they connected with the students.
You know, I'm running a club here at Duke now, or advising a club here at Duke. And I didn't think that I was going to. And I decided that I would. And it was because it was something that I had a passion for.
Yeah.
And a student approached me about it, told me what it was. And I was almost in tears with what Duke Enable does to help students, or to help people and to help the students. And I was like, I've got to be involved in that. So definitely do it because you want to do it. Be as involved as you can be, but it's tough to do if it's not what you're really wanting to do. I could never see you being a coach.
No, I would never be a coach.
Well, thanks to Duke for letting us use the podcast space, and thanks to the FI for having the bandwidth to let Russ come out and do this kind of stuff
Help
with
get
us.
the word out for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
All right.
thank you all so much.
See you next time.
And
I found this on the web for part of the math rules of requirement.
Say you or me.
that's me.
I'm going to get my water.
Thanks, Siri. This shit. Where do we go back?